Greetings, my people. Greetings, my people. I greet you in the words of a BB48. Today is still May 6, 2022, 7:56 p.m. I titled this one Paradigm Shifts. The man fans are losing it, and the Tavistock Institute. Paradigm shifts. The man fans are losing it, and the Tavistock Institute. And as I get into this, a lot of times we speak in general. We'll just say they, those, without ever speaking who is doing what. So when we say paradigm shifts, we got to say, and if we say brainwashing, they brainwash us. We have to really talk about who does what. And so far, and it's called the Tavistock Institute. And I would love for my people to go check some of these videos out on YouTube, especially check out what the Tavistock Institute is doing with the transgenders, with the transgender children. So a lot of times we just, like I said, we just speak in general, or we just talk, and we never pretty much know what we're talking about. And the book that I'm going to be breaking down is the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. I'm going to get right into it. Okay, this is chapter 5, and it is titled, Do We Have What H.G. Wells Called an Invisible Government? And we want to talk about people like Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays is the nephew of Sigmund Freud, so they say. So he is the nephew of Sigmund Freud and very institutional in shaping the mind of the people. So this is, okay, I'm going to read this. And I talked about organizing chaos in another video. You might want to go back and check that out. Okay, it says, in the first chapter, Organizing Chaos, Bernays wrote, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in the democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true power of our country. We are governed in our mind. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested largely by men that we have never heard of. Our invisible governors are in many cases unaware of the identity of their fellow members in this inner cabinet. Okay? So just dig on what I said. Remember what they said. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men that we have never heard of. Our invisible governments are in many cases unaware of the identity of their fellow members in this inner cabinet. So keep your mind on our taste, which is our also can be, as Nana Amos Wilson would say, our taste and our desires are formed, are shaped. So a lot of times, I'm loving it. These catchy jingles, these catchy tunes. That's not many of them, but think of some ways that our taste, where you get these things that you desire from, where you get these things that you just really want, where'd that come from? Okay, so that was that part. The next one is going to be chapter 6. Mass communications usher in the polling industry. And it talks about how they would use the polls, voting polls or whatever, to manipulate the masses manipulate the minds of people, of our people. No, scratch that. Scratch that. I'm not gonna do that one. I'm not gonna do that one. Chapter 7, the making of public opinion. Now, let's see where I want to start. Okay, we're gonna keep with Edward Bernays, right? Bernays. I suggest we look this up. I suggest we look things up for ourselves. And remember, this is talking about the making of public opinion. I'm gonna read this whole thing. I'm just trying to find something that I could read to you, but I'm gonna read this whole thing. We don't have nothing but time, right? Okay, it says Bernays played several keys in post-war roles. In 1953, he wrote a paper for the State Department that recommended the setting up for a psychological warfare office by state. In 1954, he was a consultant to the U.S. Air Force, the Armed Forces branch, most under the influence of the strategic bombing survey people. During this early 1950s period, Bernays was public relations counsel to the United Brand Corporation, one of the leading corporations in the communication/national security of Eisenhower's military industrial complex, then busy with consolidating its power over the U.S. policies. Bernays conducted a propaganda campaign alleging Guatemala was falling under communist control that resulted in a U.S. engineered coup in that country. In 1955, Bernays wrote a book about his experience titled The Engineering of Consent. Now, remember, I already talked about that other ones. Now, check this out. Throughout the post-war period, Bernays was a member of the Society for Applied Anthropology, one of Margaret Mead's social control institutions inside the U.S., and the Society for Psychological Study of the Social Issues, a group created by John Rawlings Rees, a founding member of Tavistock, to run psychiatric shock troops among the American population. One of its first actions was the unleashing of homosexuality in Florida, a move bitterly opposed by Anita Bryant, who had no idea what she was up against. They got what I'm saying now. Don't keep it moving. This one I'm gonna go to. Where I want to go on this one. And like I said, this is the last one before I get into what I want to talk about. The paradigm shift in education. Now, this is what I really want to talk about, how they moved a couple of things, because earlier, remember, I was talking about music. Know that I always talk about music, the 80s and the 90s, and quote unquote gangster rap, whatever that is. Let's see where I want to go. Okay, I'll go right here. On the agenda of the 1980 meeting referred to above were the following. Okay, I'm gonna go back a little bit to set context of what I'm reading. No, I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna give away too much. We can do questions if anybody want to, hit in the comment section for questions. The women's liberation movement black consciousness, racial mixing, breaking down taboos against mixed marriages as propounded by anthropologists Margaret Mead and Gregory Bateson of Tavistock. It was decided at this meeting that an aggressive program would be launched to portray colored races as superior to the Western civilization white persons. From this forum came Oprah Winfrey and a host of other black persons who were picked up and trained for their roles to portray mixed races as superior to whites. It could also be seen in movies where black movie stars suddenly proliferated until they became household names. It was also where a black person was placed in the in the role a high position of authority over whites, such a judge or a district head of the FBI, military, and CEO of large companies. Um, Also, they focused on youth rebellion against imagined societal wrongs, engineering interests and social responsibilities of business, the generation gap implying changing paradigms, uh, experimentations with new family structures, interpersonal relationships in which homosexuality and lesbianism became normalized and no different from other people acceptable at all levels of society to lesbian homes. Um, okay. An interest in meditation and other spiritual disciplines. The Kabbalah was was to supplant Christian culture, and special people were chosen to teach and spread Kabbalah. Early chosen people were Shirley MacLaine, Roseanne Barr, and later Madonna and Demi Moore. Now, if we go back a little bit, we remember that. Go back and find this thing. I think I want to say I'm like 90% sure, but if I'm wrong, correct me in my comments. I want to say Roseanne Barr a couple of years back, she talked about the Tavistock Institute and how it was kind of like fear mongering and certain things in Hollywood. So this gives a little bit more context to what I'm reading. The increased importance of self-realization process, the reinvention of music, hip hop and rap by such groups as Ice Cube, a new language form in which English is so mutilated as to be unintelligible. This is being carried over into news readers on prime television. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna do on that one. I gave 13 minutes. That's all I'm gonna do on that. So when I talk about this paradigm shift, and I just kind of wanted to give a little bit context. But when I talk about this paradigm shift, I talk about it from the standpoint of, like I was saying earlier, when Girly Man, I always called him Girly Man, even before Kevin Samuels passed away. I always called him Girly Man. He's not the full shebanga, as I call it, of the paradigm shift of how we look at, women. But in that right there, we're talking about rap. And I talked about that earlier. Go back and check out my earlier video when I talked about ushering in the new wave of the degenerate feminine energy. This is where we saw Lil Kim. This is where we saw Foxy Brown. This is where, in no specific order, this is where we saw Eve. Not Eve. This is where we saw Trina. This is where we saw a lot of female rappers begin to be more over sexualized. Now, to give more context to why what I always say, images are advertisements for the minds, and what we see in these desires and these tastes that I read earlier, we begin to emulate. One for a reason. I'm gonna give you two. Remember when I think she was dating Diddy, Cassie, and remember when she shaved off the side of her head? How many women emulated that? Now talk to me in this comment. Remember when they brought in Nicki Minaj? Well, what did they bring in outside of this Barbie, which is a plastic, Eurocentric woman, but a plastic woman nonetheless? What was the main thing they brought in with Nicki Minaj? Think about it. I'm gonna take my time in these videos. I'm not gonna, because sometimes we just rush, and I'm guilty of that. Okay, remember they brought in like butt injections, and I remember I was doing a radio show a while back, and I did research on this sister named Kelly Mayhew. I want to say that was the name, Kelly Mayhew. If I'm wrong, I'll go back and correct it in my next video. But I try to recall a lot of this off the top of my brain, and this was years ago. And she was one of the casualties in this. She was one of the casualties in this of trying to, get a bigger butt. Where she got she wanted butt injection, and she went. I think it was in New York, and it was like in a New York City like basement, and she got butt injections, and she ended up dying. So now what do we see? Even still now in 2021, 2022, BBLs. BBLs, because we're not, and I'm going somewhere with Girly Man and the likes of those types. Our women, and I really wish I had more, like I had that sister on earlier. I really wish I had more viewers, like she says. Now I'm like, I really wish I had more viewers, but sometimes, my nose always itching. But sometimes I don't want to go live on like my social media, because then that's too much traffic. I kind of like always want to say I'm stuck in between. I want y'all to find these videos like jewels and come across and tell me what you think. But then I'm stuck also in between. I want more people to hear this. But our women aren't really confident, because there's always like this stiff competition of how you're supposed to look with, and the reason I said Girly Man, his high value scale, it plays into European standards. It plays into European standards. It plays into women feeling like they need these enhancements because you're a 5 at best. Now I can be very objective, because like I always said, I'm a single man that date. So sometimes I'll say I agree with that. Some of those women that did call in, some of those females did kind of need a little bit bringing down to reality. Because in this new wave of modern males and females, there's kind of like this misogynistic, chauvinistic way of thinking, and this feminist entitlement way of thinking. So in the misogynist, they just hate the female. She's only good for sex. Totally European. Because I always like to use my Al Bundy analogy, where if we go back and remember Married with Children, he'd have rather went to the dentist with no Novocaine than to have sex with his wife. Because the white male he secretly doesn't like his woman. He doesn't get on platforms and degrade his woman. But that doesn't mean they don't do it. See, we got to go back into history to understand why feminism Why lesbianism? A Greek island called Lesbos. Because it was like, hey, okay, we want to show y'all because the men felt like it was no need. So they said, hey, okay, if y'all want to get down, y'all feel like y'all don't need us, then shoot, we don't need y'all, and we're going to. But the crazy part about the island of Lesbos was they weren't told all the way just known for their lesbian activity. They was known for giving really good fellatio. So we have to really like go back. This is why I wear Sankofa. Go back into the past and get it. Go back into the past and bring it forward. So we have to kind of understand the past to understand the future. Understand the past of the first ain't shit male was the white man. And the first ain't shit female or bitch was the white woman. But somehow we've started to imitate the imitators. Now that one gonna get you. That's a whole nother topic. I'll break that down. We began to imitate their degenerate behavior. And they've told us that they are royalty. They come from this. They've switched places with us and we've accepted it. So with this high value scale, it's all predicated on European standards. Money, physical looks, height, sex, shallow stuff. The African family can't sustain in that type of thinking. It can't sustain in that type of thinking. Where the man fans are losing it today. Again, it's black males versus black females. And there was a dude, he made an interesting observation when it came to girly man. He said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but he said, how did that go? Females and males like myself, men like myself, are kind of like nonchalant and insensitive to what happened. And he goes on to say in a long post that, you know why most females and most real dudes are like, okay. Because that was the energy that Kevin Samuels gave out. He was totally detached and totally insensitive to anything that anybody had going on. So this real truth that y'all brothers keep saying is coming from a hurt place. I'm not saying that was just total no truth at all, but it wasn't the whole shebanga, as I keep using that word. How come certain platforms, I'm not going to call them out because I want to make it on my own merit. And anybody that know me knows I've been never afraid to speak somebody's name, but I'm doing things different. I want to make it on my own merit. But how come certain podcasts or channels that I look at, they always play certain things? They want to harp on on how trifling Jada Pickett is. And she got her issues. That's why I say I could be objective. But how come nobody really keeps continuously pointing out Nature Boy? How come these group of man fans did, and what I would hear about some of the brothers that I had respect for was we need to be reserved before we really speak on polite situation. Here it is, you're able to sexually molest, allegedly. A teenage girl, and we have black males talking about, well, we don't know all the truth. This is foolishness. This is foolishness. There's this all male dick holding club, and I don't like it. I'm not down with it. I'm who I am 24/7. When I'm offline, I talk. When I'm online, you're not getting the character. You're not getting some person pretending to be the king of Pan Africanism or the prince of pork and bean juice or whatever in the hell he wants to be. Not saying no name, but pick up the pieces. These characters, young black males that once built the entire platform of saying the black woman is God, to only abandon it and say black women ain't shit but bitches. These bitches. Characters. To have certain dudes running around stirring shit, and I would have an elder that always tell me if you stir shit long enough, it's gonna stink. Running around talking about we's foundation of Black Americans, but got a whole European right in the midst of his stuff. Characters, agents of chaos sent to cause confusion. Massive paradigm shifts. Massive paradigm shifts. So in these massive paradigm shifts, we are constantly forgetting who we are. We're further getting away from who we are. Now we don't even recognize it. How many of these real staunch girly men followers really do we see denouncing what Dwayne Wade has done to his son? The way if Jada Pinkett did that to her son. The paradigm shift doesn't want men like me to even show any kind of respect to black women, or we're simps. And I always ask, how is Russell Wilson a simp taking care of Sierra, taking care of Future's son? Pouring into a black woman positive. Oh, she for the streets. And we're going to sustain black families thinking like this? Emotional men. Talk about, I guess Roe versus Wade. I'm going to show you how these emotional males, because they're not men. And I'll revisit. I did a radio show years ago called it The 3 Stages of Manhood, where I wrote down your man, your male, and your niggas. Okay? So emotional males and niggas with this Roe versus Wade, this is what they're saying. So now the baby killers are celebrating death like they love to do. And these are the dudes y'all step over guys like me for. It's time to wake up, black people. We don't have much time left. We don't have all the time like we think we have. So that's why I give it all I got. I understand the implications of talking about certain things on this thing. I understand that well through and through because I know my enemy. I know what my enemy has done. But when you have something within you, you can't be contained by fear. That means you don't get afraid. But fear can't be your agenda. Foolishness can't be your agenda either now. I think that sister, and I got to look up your name. Please forgive me, my sister. I thank her that said, brother, you deserve more views. A channel like yours deserves more views. That means the world to me. But channels like this aren't gonna be popping. Because I'm not gonna turn it to a shit show. I wouldn't have a panel of being a hell of a nigga. I'm a hell of a nigga. That constantly never will go to any real information and show you what happened. Try to even remotely explain to you what happened. I'm a celebrity. I played basketball. But see, I got out because I was a hell of a nigga. I ain't gonna say no names. Pick up the pieces. We following characters. And because they got some clout or they got some type of celebrity, we follow them talking about, oh, they helping the community. They changing things. They leading the people. Leading the people well. We keep talking about leading the people. Where are the people going? How come we ain't got that yet? Everybody leading the damn people. Leading the people. Leading the people. We need to go into freedom. And as my elder teachers would always say, freedom to do what? See, we got to really put these words, some of these words we just misuse in the context. We got a bunch of Black Americans, ADOS, FBA, VSOP. It's just a little CP humor. But now I'm just being funny with the VSOP. We got all these acronyms. And we got all these people saying, F Africans. Africans ain't never done nothing for us. Why is all this vitriol for Africa? Think about this. But they're constantly raping Africa over there. Setting up military bases years ago, AFRICOM. Setting up military bases, slaughtering people. Africans are coons. We so stupid. We won't open a book and read to save. But we have the empty wagon make so much noise until you put something in it. Y'all ain't gonna get what I'm saying. Too much emotionalism. Too much hurt on both sides. Bitter females, broken dudes. Broken dudes, bitter females. You pissed because the female broke your heart and chose somebody else. She pissed because the dudes broke her heart and chose somebody else. She don't want this. She's shallow. She got her type. He don't want this. He's shallow. He got his type. And I'm not saying don't have your preference, but we don't have to beat down each other, degrade each other. We can't sustain another generation like this. What are our children? I was talking to a friend last night, and she was one of those ones that we've been here. We're Americans. We want to help it. I mean, the anger on the inside. And so when I asked the question, I said, well, scratch Africa. Okay, if you want to treat Africa like that, if you want to denounce Africa, I'll grant you that. I'll play this game with you. Let's scratch it. What are we going to do here in America? I don't know. I don't have a question. I don't have an answer. Emotional rantings. Emotional rantings. Don't have a clue how to get nowhere, how to stop nobody. Because we don't want to. And not everybody, but just the ones that understand. I don't care I don't care what you believe past a certain point. Just long as when it's in my core, in my space, it's not gonna come in here. But if we understand what we're up against collectively, it don't matter what you believe. Because here's the key. Are you pushing what you believe like you believe it with everything in your heart? Are you willing to get up here and put your life on the line for what you believe and what you feel? Or are you just, we hate Africa. We ain't Africans. Tyreek told us we some FBA. Oh, I said a name. I said that old coward name. We can't sustain. We can't sustain this, y'all. So I just wanted to come on and share this, and I don't know if I'll get much stuff, but like I said, I'm not out. But man, if I can help 5 people, that was the last point. That was a dude. He tried to degrade my videos when I got into it when I had a video on the basketball player, and that video did better than anything that I posted. He said, "See, you need him." Blah blah blah. This. I can't help the algorithms, whatever that is, picked it up, and people gravitated toward it. But this is the thing. Why do people gravitate more toward that than this right here? These are the real jewels. What I said about the basketball player was real jewels in truth, but it's nothing compared to this. This is the stuff that could get me in trouble. Not what I said about the basketball player. So we don't even understand how to value the real jewels because it ain't messy, because it ain't gossipy. And if you want chatty patty, you're not going to get that here. So I leave you how I greeted you. Sneezing. And a BB for Hodier, African liberation for African people. Peace.